Though I have not been too well and I have been moderately participating in the Rajat Jayanti events, but this I thought was an occasion I cannot miss. One to, of course, the Setu Aayog itself, the organizing the Department of Skills, but the subject itself is so energizing and so important for the destiny of our state and the nation. Also, I am finding some very well-known faces to me out here. Mr. Sarma, to see his Medhavi model, I went all the way to Sikkim and I was so impressed with it. And it is in my heart and mind that we will do it one day. So, in a state like Sikkim, I'm sure most of you would not have visited there. But we're creating a skill university and so closely tied up with industry that the industry leaders whom I met there are still in touch with me and are saying that how do we replicate this model. Nikhil Panji, who is working with us closely on the skill survey and very dynamic person, continues to engage corporate leaders with Uttarakhand, also our young leaders like Shweta Visht, our advisors, Dr. Bhavna and Hanumanji, and all other members in the audience. Uttarakhand is celebrating its 25 years. Celebration is always a cause of happiness. As Lahiri ji said, even Kalsi ji said, I must mention him also. He's an encyclopedia of skilling. My senior from IIT Roorkee. At the same time, he was a very senior IAS officer. But when you meet him, he's live wire, inspiring, always helpful. A person instrumental in building NCVT what it is today, and also contributing to restructuring of the leading Indian academic institutions like UGC and others. As he said that this state was born after so much of struggle, अनेक संघर्षों, कई दुखद घटनाओं और वर्षों के दमन और कठिनाइयां, इसके बाद ही राज्य बना। एक युवा राज्य जो आज 25 वर्ष अपने मना रहा है. So it's a cause of celebration. We have come a long way. Successive governments have contributed towards its development. The current government continues to have many path-breaking initiatives, many very, very good ideas and thoughts. And Saurabh ji is always willing to help in whatever we want to do. And he himself has his own thoughts and ideas. At the same time, this is the point, one thing which I like about this program is this is a lot focused on present and future. So otherwise you go to many programs where we are celebrating good things. You must celebrate, there is no doubt, there is no denying the fact. But we have to think of today and tomorrow. So when we see tomorrow, skill is such an important subject. And even in my communications with the highest officers of this country, even the Prime Minister's office told me that skill is something if you can contribute effectively. This is one of Prime Minister's top priorities. There are challenges. I won't go in deep into it. The model has gone through various iterations, continues to evolve. What's the perfect model, and so on and so forth. Today we are talking that all the skill institutions, ITIs and so on and so forth, should be run by industry, and so on and so forth. So a lot of these things come into it, which is it's evolving. Let's see how it comes out. So a 60,000 crore plan has been already broadly worked out. That's what it should be. How to involve industry, and so on. But skill is, as Lahiri ji said, and I think I like this word, skill security. A word which has now got etched into my mind. Because skill is not just about employment, it's about self-esteem in today's world. Not just about young people, it's about people in middle age, people in old age. How do they develop their own skills further, and so on. And it's a very clear GDP multiplier. Somebody unskilled earns, let's say I'm just giving an example, 100 rupees an hour. If he's skilled, he gets 200. So that's a very clear differentiator. So about rising people's incomes, national competitiveness. In my long corporate career, I've been privileged to work with and closely know the industry leaders, Mr. Mahindra, Mr. Birla himself, with whom I've closely worked for years, Mr. Tata, Bangers, and so on and so forth. Everybody, I regularly interact with them. Everybody has skill on their minds, because as the industry is growing, they need skilled people. This is a no-brainer. So when we set up this industry-run skill center in Nainital, the Tatas told me, आपको कहाँ खोलना है, कितना खोलना है, बता दीजिए. मैंने कहा एक से शुरू करते हैं पहले. तो we set up in Nainital. The second one we are looking at in Srinagar, Garhwal, Central University. So anyway, so skill is, but skill has to be seen in a very holistic way. In line with the evolving policy models. In my deliberations with the country's highest authorities on public policy evolution, three things very clearly come out, and that's what the national policy is also moving. One is strategic intent and will. That's extremely important. Otherwise, all the policies will go nowhere. Second is ecosystem model. And third is action-oriented policies formulation. If your policies are not leading to action on the ground in a very competitive time frame, it doesn't make any sense. And the second aspect I said was ecosystem model. And considering everything as an opportunity. For example, in Uttarakhand's context, when we say disaster, we often look at disaster as of course, it's a challenge, many dimensions to it. But we have to look at an ecosystem view. We've lost 2 lakh hectares of arable lands in the last 25 years. And now that's a loss. At the same time, now that contributes to water not being, because once the land is not arable, it becomes hard, it doesn't absorb water, and the water runs off the river, it runs off the higher mountains. Plus springs, the drying up of the springs. You look at then the construction regulations, post-disaster, everything is holistic. So agriculture is related to disaster. The spring water rejuvenation is related to disaster. So this is a very ecosystem view. You cannot take an isolated view. You look at events and post. And at the same time, it's a huge opportunity. I was reading in today's Times of India that before the COP30, the report has been released that we are most likely going to see 2% of temperature increase over the pre-industrial levels by this century. And that could lead to more than half, almost 70% of the glacial water being lost. Normal situation also, it will get lost by 15-20% at this rate. Now the number may lie in between, but it's a huge challenge, and that's especially significant for states like Himalayan states like Uttarakhand. But at the same time, this whole climate opportunity, I always stick my neck out and say it's not a crisis, it's an opportunity actually. And this opportunity lies, because I was in Bombay last week and I met a financier. He said that one of the biggest global banks has agreed to put up 400 crores to support 10,000 hectares of forestation in Meghalaya. Out of the total budget of 1200 crores, 400 crores they will pay because of the carbon credit mechanism. And 400 crores is coming from long-term financing, and 400 crores NABARD is going to do. Now this is the opportunity. So we have to look at these imaginative models for afforestation and agricultural rejuvenation. This is very much possible for us. So we have to look imaginatively and look it as an opportunity to build, increase economic activity. Often people talk of skills. It has many dimensions, as I said. People will study, go to Germany, Japan, get paid well, that's fine. That's a certain segment will do that. Certain segment needs to be remain in Uttarakhand. Our economic activity, once as it increasing, it will contribute to job creation. It will contribute to skill development need. So things like climate crisis, things like, as I said, that not just focusing on multiple aspects. As I go back to my original, my earlier thought of ecosystem model. So we have to look at skills holistically. People who learn here, whose skill we develop, they go abroad, very important. I think $1.1 billion, some 11,000 crore has been the remittance input to Uttarakhand in dollar terms in the last year. Now this is something which this also contributes to economy, so we need that also. We need people who learn here, go to ITIs and so on and so forth, contribute to manufacturing sector and services sector in the country. We also need to look at our own sectors like agriculture, which is again a high potential job creator. And without it, Uttarakhand cannot progress. And that's one of the big challenges which we have actually put in the new SFC report also. 45% of the population dependent on agriculture, contributing to 9% of the state's GDP. And this ratio, as you know, is going to shrink on. How do you translate that? Everybody is not going to go to different places. And we cannot tell them it will take 10 years. Their life is now. So sectors like agriculture, animal husbandry, all of these sectors, so we have to look at skills holistically. As I said, recognition of prior learning, upskilling and so on and so forth. So people who will develop skills, go outside the state, people who will develop skills, serve the state in the manufacturing and services sectors, and people who will develop skills, become self-employed. It's also a challenge. In my home city of Haldwani, I find that most of the time when I ask for plumbers or electricians and so on and so forth, some people will do that also. Everybody is not going to become, will not become, that's a law of nature, at least in the foreseeable future. There are hardly any people from Uttarakhand. So I think these are the kind of challenges they have to come, they have to serve the state. So we have to look at skills holistically. Setu Aayog is working closely with many of the state departments in multiple areas. For example, agriculture. We launched recently a project with Gates Foundation in Agrakhal in Tehri and Party Block in Champawan to address some of the big problems of our farmers like animal menace and crop infection, low mechanization, low financing, formal system of financing, and many of the bioformulations, battery-driven agriculture equipment, because in hills, in the kind of farms we have, small holdings, you cannot have tractor going there. You need to have different kind of instruments. So we launched this pilot on the ground in November. And farmers, and I was in Party and I met hundreds of SHGs, farmers, or here also in Agrakhal. They were so interested. There is so much energy in the ground. They need collaborations like this. Now that is going to be a job creator, because we have 4 very successful startups by the Gates Foundation, Indian startups working with it. Now these are areas which will create jobs. Or we are working with Tata's very closely on procurement, organized with ITC and Mahindra's on irrigation improvement. So these are the areas which will, as I said, these are all a skill. Skill is everywhere. Skill is not just skill department's work, actually. And that's one of the important things we have to understand. All of this is going to contribute. The animal husbandry sector. We have commissioned a study by National Dairy Development Board, and that study is started now to take our dairy sector forward. We have our own brand Aanchal, but it has huge potential. Why Aanchal cannot become Amul, or at least try to become that, even if you can't? So we need to have that ambition, that vision. So that has started. NDDB is very happily to do it. It's their mandate as a National Dairy Development Board. And but of course there is so much to learn from them. Now these are the sectors. If dairy sector grows up, even in the goat rearing, in the hills we have, goats are there, but it is not very organized. हमारे पहाड़ में वो बकरी होती है, वो हमारे यहाँ गोट होता है, गोट कहते हैं उसको, बकरी गाय वो सब उसी में रहते हैं. Not so hygienic conditions. In Wardha and Pune I have seen goat farms like anything. So of course you cannot go there, but there is a middle point. So we have launched a technology project on goat rearing. The results are good, and we are right now actually awaiting an approval from a global funder agency on a large-scale pilot on improving the goat rearing practices. Now, these are all skills, so everywhere is skills related. Or social sector, in telemedicine with Tata Trusts, we are starting a pilot with AIMS Rishikesh, a health study, forests. Forest is a great source of economic activity. And EV policy, we have drafted the EV policy and we are hoping that it comes to cabinet soon. Now that is because we have a huge manufacturing base in Uttarakhand of automobiles. A lot of people, you may not know, 1/3 of value production of Ashok Leyland comes from Uttarakhand. 1/3 of Ashok Leyland. We have Tata Motors, we have Mahindras, we have Hero. All of them top leaders I have spoken to. They made good investments in Setu years back. But the next wave of investment, as we all know, is in electric vehicles. This year we have actually crossed, I think, 5% threshold, as they say. And this is going to create huge jobs, not just in manufacturing, servicing, and so on and so forth. So there are many sectors. I mean, the list is long, I cannot keep on, it's difficult to keep on narrating. But there are many areas we are working on, education and so on and so forth. We've launched with NASSCOM. I think the NASSCOM team is also out here. Courses for higher education. So all of these contribute. So I really look forward to hearing many of the deliberations today. And I'm sure that we will get a very good compendium and input, and not just input, potential collaborations. As I said, action is very important. Having been in the corporate sector for long, for me, if it doesn't translate to action, if it doesn't translate to outcome, it actually has less meaning. So I am very certain that with the organizers, with the teams out here, we will get some very good actions. And